Okay, it says we're live. I don't know if that is a fact or not, but it says we're live. If we are live, hello and welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. We have a special guest with us today. We have Julian Gotiangco. Go ahead and say hello, and we'll see if it's working.
Hello.
Okay. I'm hearing me through the thing. We're just doing a quick little audio test. Okay, that works. Okay. Let's see if we hear Julian. If we do, we're good to go. All right, I hear everything. Okay, cool. This seems to be working. All right. We have clearance that everything is working, so this is great. Let me just open the YouTube so I have live chat going, and then we'll do a formal hello. All right, we did it. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Welcome to Robert's Reviews. We are doing a Marvel theory discussion, of course, with Julian Gotiangco. So happy you're here. We do have the live chat feature going, so if you are interested in talking to us, you go ahead and drop things in the chat, like Cody Buckman just did. He said, yeah, everything's working. That's great. That's my friend telling me that it's working. So that's great. If you want to ask questions, that's what we're here for. Go ahead and drop a question in the comments, and we'll answer it with what we think will be true. Like if you're like, oh, I heard about this theory. What do you think? We will answer that as soon as I see the question. Really, really excited about it. And, of course, first, huge spoiler warning for anything you see on the screen here, any of the pictures. We're going to be talking about Phase 4 today, mainly what's going on this year in 2021. And it's going to be crazy. We got a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk about Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, talk about Black Widow, all of which we've already seen, and then talking about a couple theories for Shang-Chi, and then Spider-Man No Way Home, and the Eternals, all of which come out this year. So I'm really excited for that, and make sure you stick around to the end of the live stream, because I got a little bit of a surprise to tell you. I'm a little nervous about the surprise, but I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are going to like it. We'll see how it goes, but that is the plan. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the stuff that happened this year. Let's start with WandaVision. That cool with you, Julian? We start with WandaVision?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about all the stuff that's already happened, because we did that in previous videos. If you want to check those out, they're on my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribing to this channel. It's a huge help. If we get to 150, the second we get to 150, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm putting on a Spider-Man suit and my Spider-Man mask. I'm going to Walmart and I'm going to go buy something. So if you want to see that filmed, make sure you smash that red subscribe button while we talk about WandaVision. So WandaVision was the first show that came out. I believe it started in January. Do you think it's correct? Yeah, January 15th, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So January, it was January through February, I think. I think it was just those two. It might have been a little bit through March. I think it was actually through the first week of March. And I think it was a good show. I think it was a very interesting way to start Phase 4. Definitely with a television show. Wasn't really expecting that. But what I think is the most interesting is what's happened afterwards, right? We have a lot of really interesting stuff that happened during the show, of course. Then there was the whole Mephisto, everyone talking about Mephisto, even though we'll probably never see him in the MCU. What do you think about the whole Mephisto thing, Julian? Do you think we'll see him ever?
I don't know, but I was telling you the other day, like, no, for the future shows, like, oh, he's gonna show up this time. Oh, he's gonna show up this time.
It'll never be.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
For the viewers who are interested in my thoughts on Mephisto, I don't think we'll ever see Mephisto because he is literally a devil, and in China they're not allowed to show devils on screen, and China is a very big money maker for Disney, and so I don't think we're going to see Mephisto. Even when it came to Black Widow for Taskmaster is usually much more skeletal, but China said that if they released it into a skeletal, that they would not be releasing it in theaters. That's a huge money loss for Disney, so they cut that out. So if you're interested in why I think we're not going to see Mephisto, that's really the main reason why, is because I think he's a little bit too scary for an actual MCU film. Is it possible? Maybe at this point, now the fact that they're considering adding, well, not even considering, Blade is confirmed, and that's a little darker, and then, if we do actually get Morbius and Venom into the MCU, I think it's possible we get some more heavily PG-13 stuff, and Deadpool, of course, is actually going to be canon. technically is canon now after his video with Taika Waititi's Korg. But I think we will see a Deadpool movie in the MCU. I think Deadpool 3 will be MCU canon, or at least we can hope. But that's not what we're here to talk about. I want to talk about one thing in particular in WandaVision, which is the end credits scene. For those of you who don't know, in the audience, a couple weeks ago, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was an update to the end credits scene for WandaVision. Something changed. There's a few things that changed. First, they changed some islands, they changed some trees around, they changed the overall color of the flowers and stuff like that, and there's this little, like, globy looking thing that flows down the mountain. Okay? And I want to get Julian's thought on this first before I talk about what I think, but what do you think? Do you think it's on purpose, an accident? Do you think it might be Doctor Strange? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that was the thing I kept on seeing. Like, oh, this has to do with Doctor Strange. So I don't know for sure if like it was an accident. So I can't really say if it's definitive or not.
I think it's interesting at very least. And the reason I think it is interesting is because we start off with a pretty good end credit scene that I was really happy with. But Disney wasn't happy with it, I guess, because they went back and they changed it after it was released. That's never happened before for a Marvel project. They'd never retconned something that they did. And they literally just went through and they changed a couple tree things, and they changed a couple other things, which makes me think that something of that has to be on purpose. They purposely went back and they were like, let's go ahead and figure out how to do this, where we can change the trees a little bit. Why they would want to do that, I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to me that they would really try purposefully to change something, especially something so little like a tree. But the glowy thing that was coming down the mountain, I personally think was just a mistake. However, we never really will know, I think, and the main reason for that is because even if it is a mistake, it's giving Disney and Marvel a lot of free advertising. They went from, people watch WandaVision, moved on, to people who are already rewatching the last finale to see if anything has changed. And I think it would be cool, I don't think it's practical, but I think it's cool that theoretically speaking, they could go back and refilm everything for WandaVision, make it completely different now that it's in multiverse. I don't think they will, but it's interesting that they could. And on top of the fact that they could, we're getting to the point where if it's real, if it's Doctor Strange, cool. If it's not, does it really matter? No, I don't think it does. I don't think it really particularly matters, but they did change something on purpose. They purposely changed trees, and they changed the island, and whether or not that actually has anything in terms of conflictingness for the actual WandaVision show, I don't know, and I honestly don't think so. I think it was just like they realized it didn't look very good, they tried to fix it, and made a mistake. But now that people are like, it could be Doctor Strange, they're not going to fix the mistake, if it is a mistake.
Yeah.
One more thing about WandaVision, and I want to talk to you about this particularly because this kind of made me upset when I was watching the show, and now I'm realizing that maybe, and I mentioned this in my finale Robert's Thoughts episode as well, that I thought maybe there was something more than what they were giving us, and that is Ralph Bohner. So we know that is Quicksilver in the X-Men. And I want to know your thoughts. Is that Quicksilver? Is that the real Quicksilver? Are they trying to punk us maybe a little bit? Is he Quicksilver in disguise? Now that we know the multiverse is real, is that Quicksilver Ralph Bohner, who looks exactly like Quicksilver from the X-Men movies?
Yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that now, because
at first, did you think it was Quicksilver, or do you think it was somebody else?
Yeah.
Because, I personally thought it was Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, kind of was the point, I think, but if they wanted it to be Ralph Bohner, they could have casted anybody. They could have casted anybody to play a small role, it didn't matter. And the fact that they chose Evan, is it Evan Peters? I think it's Evan Peters.
Evan Peters, yeah.
Cool. The fact that they chose him literally shows you that it was on purpose. There's a purpose for him being Ralph Bohner and not being Quicksilver. I think it's possible that we get Avengers versus X-Men at some point. It's a thing that's happened a bit in the comics. And with Ralph Bohner, he could literally be somebody from the multiverse coming in and spying on the Avengers. realizing, oh, Wanda's very much in distress, and that could be something that adds to the multiversal war. Because as we're already seeing, there aren't a whole lot of villains in the multiversal war, except for variants of other people. But what we could see is Kang the Conqueror working with the X-Men and kind of working towards a big multiversal war. I don't necessarily think that X-Men will continue to be on the bad side at that point, but it has happened in the comics. We've had an X-Men versus Avengers, and I think it's possible we see that with Quicksilver here, and then all the drama that could ensue with, like, Wanda doesn't want to hurt Ralph Bohner because he's kind of her brother, and all this really interesting kind of conflictions that I think work really well, and honestly are a little nerve-wracking for me, because that could add a whole lot more to the whole idea of a multiverse, let alone the whole minor thing with it not necessarily being a multiverse. It's certainly interesting to me, and I really do hope that it actually does turn into a multiversal war. I do believe we're going to go in that direction. We'll talk about it later. Whether or not the X-Men are going to be involved, I don't know, but that's just a thought. I'll take a quick second to remind you who are watching, make sure you slap some comments down in the live chat. Say hello if you're here. Hello. I'll say hello back. I'll give you a shout out in the stream. And if you want to ask any questions, feel free to do that in the comments below as well in the live chat. And we'll get to them. And of course, we got a little surprise at the end. I'm very excited about it. Let's move on to the second MCU show, which was The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, this took place, well, in the MCU, it took place this is right after Endgame, right? It's a little bit after. It's after WandaVision, isn't it? Or is it before WandaVision? It's got to be after WandaVision. WandaVision was right after Endgame. No, it wasn't. Just that one scene was. Okay, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier comes before WandaVision, but I don't remember. Oh, hi Cody. Thanks for never leaving me. Love you. I think the interesting part about the Falcon and Winter Soldier is that it is very much its own contained story. We are continuing the MCU, but not making things incredibly difficult quite yet. Mainly because we are familiar with the characters. We got Bucky, we got Sam. We're used to that. They have the Flag Smashers, with this kind of weak villain that didn't really matter. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But I want to talk first about the characters. I think the characters are the most intriguing for me. And I want to ask you what you think about Bucky and what you think about his arc in this show. Do you think it progressed his character? Do you think it limited his character? What are your thoughts on Bucky?
I think it did progress. I understand people are like, oh, they made him look so weak, like, but I think like just seeing him like trying not to be the Winter Soldier anymore, and he has like like a checklist of people, and like by the end like he finishes that checklist, and I think Bucky had a good character progression.
Yeah, I very much agree, and I think that it was cool that we got to visit him in a different way, because in every other movie they're so short, right? They're only 2.5 hours long, which is really long for a movie, but regardless, it's short in comparison to the rest of the stuff. So I do find it rather interesting that we kind of went that direction of Bucky is Bucky instead of being the Winter Soldier, which I kind of knew was going to happen, but I didn't think it would be so soon. And I like seeing him in that light. And when it comes to Bucky, he'll never complete his list. We already know that.
Yeah.
Because Tony Stark's dead, and he killed his parents. So we know that for a certain small extent, we know that Bucky will always be at least part Winter Soldier. And I look forward to at least one more show or one more movie where we kind of discuss it a little bit. But I hope that right after that they kind of move on from him being the Winter Soldier. I'm a little dragged out by it right now. I think it was cool that they had it in the Winter Soldier, and they kind of wrapped up most of it. There is some of it that is still waiting to be seen, perhaps is the way I should put it. But I think that we'll get one more thing where he is the Winter Soldier, and then we'll move on after that. I think we're going to move on after that into something more, White Wolfish, like from Black Panther. But I don't know for sure, but that's my thought.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Sam. I think Sam was a very good character. I think that starting off immediately, we were happy with what we got from Sam.
Yeah.
in the movies. But in this show, do you think it limited his character, or do you think it enhanced his character?
I think it was I think the strongest thing about uh Falcon and the Winter Soldier was it wasn't really the action. It was like just like the character progression for, and I think the same way how I felt with Bucky, the same way I felt about Sam in this show.
Yeah, I actually fully agree. I think that it did definitely give him more to work with. I am a little nervous about the fourth Captain America movie, which is sort
Yeah,
of confirmed. Kevin Feige hasn't
yeah,
actually said anything about it, but people are saying it's confirmed, even though it's technically not. We will not get one till Phase 5 anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
But I really hope that. I like him as Captain America. I really do. I think it
yeah,
works.
hmm,
But to a small extent, he will never be Steve Rogers. It's just
yeah,
true.
hmm,
And I hope they don't
yeah,
try to actually replace Steve Rogers. They need to replace
mhm,
Captain America. They don't need to replace Steve Rogers. So I'm hoping we kind of move into his own villains, we move into his own storyline, and I hope that he and Bucky still remain close, because we get to a point where we have this entire show and they're becoming really close, and there's such a possibility that they will just ignore it completely and be like, he's Captain America, but he and Bucky didn't have any like friendship, and I'll be really annoyed if I decide to go that
yeah,
route. I do think it is possible and even probable that they will go that route, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm hoping it works out well, for the show and for the character as well. I didn't write this down, I forgot to mention it, but I'm going to put it here. Zemo. Thoughts. What are your thoughts on Zemo?
So I actually didn't expect him to even show up in the show, but
Mm.
he it was actually pretty nice to see him back. I mean, I'm I remember when you were like reviewing it, like we didn't get enough of him in like the purple mask, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely upset me a lot. Was that he literally, and this is really funny to me. It sucks, but it's funny. He literally was just like on top of a truck, and he's like, "Oh!" He put on the mask, and he looked super cool. Then he ran down and he hit a couple dudes, and that
no,
was it. Like that was
that's it.
that's it. And I'm just like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?" I'll never understand why they did that. And then like, of course, the Marvel fans are like, "He put on the mask." I'm like, "That's not the point. Like, we're not excited he put on the mask, guys. Like, everyone calm down." I'm a Marvel fan too. I loved seeing the mask. It was super cool. But also, you go from putting on the mask to just like pew pew, and then it's done. We never see it again. What is that garbage? I think we'll see him again later, and I hope that he wears the mask more. Like, even on the poster you see on the OBS, on the stream, you can't see it, I think, but
Hmm.
on the thing, he has the mask on. Like, you can't market that, and like, that's such false advertising. It's like episode 3 or whatever. He just like puts it on for like 10 seconds, and it's like, "Oh, Baron Zemo, he's so cool," and it's like, no, no, like, he's funny. I love the character. The character itself's really great. But who
Yeah,
in Marvel Studios hell was like, let's just tease him a little bit, put on the mask for like 5 seconds, call it good. Like, I'm wondering if that might have been an extended scene and then they cut it a little bit and didn't realize that maybe he was wearing the mask for like 5 seconds, and no one's talking about it. How is nobody talking about it? No one's like, oh, he only wore it for like 5 seconds. He did. Like, everyone's like, he put on the mask. Like, oh my goodness, I will never get over it. It bothers me to no end. But I think the character's great. Like, I think
yeah.
it's great. But like, why
No,
did
no,
they
yeah.
do that? Yeah. um, let's talk about the big part about the Falcon Winter Soldier, really, which is the main villain, which is technically the Flag Smashers. What are your thoughts on the Flag Smashers? And what's her name? Carly Morgan.
Out of like out of like all the Disney Plus shows so far, I think she was the weakest villain we've gotten, in my opinion.
Yeah. I might even go as to say it might be one of the weakest villains they've had in the MCU. Um,
No, oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
I think that the premise was there and it was working. I appreciated
yeah,
that they were like kind of going in the direction of like, we're kind of getting more feely than actually action. I like that, but they made her so incredibly boring that for a very large stretch of time when watching this, I realized that like at the end she's just gonna get beaten up. Like, it's gonna be super easy. And I was right. It was kind of a smaller conflict than most other things. but I think that they're going in the right direction. I think they went a little bit too far in that direction. They were like, we want more of an emotional connection for our villains. Let's do all emotional. We need emotional, but they need to have a reason to be bad, and the reason was okay, but it wasn't like the strongest thing I've ever seen. And I think the actress, in my opinion, and I think my Falcon Winter Soldier review comes out this Saturday. Actually, I can just check real quick. If you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on this show itself, definitely check it out this Saturday when my actual review for it comes out, because I forgot to film it. But it is out. It'll be out Saturday. I think when it comes to the actress that played Carly, the main issue that I had was that she was so overly dramatic. Everything she said had to be intense and like in your face. It's like, even when it was like that small conversation between Sam and her, that was a great conversation. It felt like even the cinematography felt a little bit too intense for the situation that we're in, which Marvel hasn't done a whole lot of yet, but DC does a lot of. DC's like, let's make everything super intense, and like that way they're always engaged. And I think intensity does not always equal the engagement of an audience member. I really don't think it does. I think it has more to do with the characters rather than just it being intense. You know what I mean? Like when you're watching the first Justice League, it's funny and it's just intense, but it's not entertaining. Whereas when you watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, it is more entertaining, and I think that is because not everything feels so cinematic as the first one, which means maybe we don't go a little bit too far over the edge on that direction, but kind of keep it more chill. Let's talk about U.S. Agent. What do you think about the new Captain America that kind of got turned bad? What are your thoughts on him?
I think the actor Wyatt Russell, he's did a great job. But I was like, oh, I hate it. When he's Captain America, like, I hate you, I hate you, John Walker. But then when he became U.S. Agent, I'm like, oh, I'm very excited to see what he. I hope to see him. I hope to see more of him as U.S. Agent.
Yeah, I agree. I started out the show and I immediately knew he was going to be U.S. Agent. I mean, it was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Which is another thing about Falcon Winter Soldier that I appreciate, but also didn't help, is that it's very straightforward. There's no big surprises. There was, what's-her-face being what's-her-face, but other than that, not a huge, change in direction. But I do think U.S. Agent will be a very fun villain to play with because he actually does have a lot of emotional input. He has a lot of interests, and I think that he was a better villain than the Flag Smashers. And I appreciate that they did say we're going to get more of him at some point if Wyatt Russell doesn't quit, which is unfortunately a possibility at this point, unless he already has a contract, which Marvel's been kind of straying away. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if any of the viewers know this either, but they're straying away from big contracts and doing smaller ones.
I did see that.
Yeah, and that's fine, but like also they need them because if they have smaller contracts, people could just leave, which kind of defeats the purpose of having, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But regardless, I think he's a very cool villain. I'm very excited to see him later. And that leads me directly to Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Did you know about Val before the show started, or did you just find out about her through the show?
I did not, because they were saying, "Oh, we're gonna get a big cameo," and I didn't know who it was gonna be. And then I had to do a double take. I'm like, "Is that Julia Louis-Dreyfus?" And then I waited till that, and then I waited to the end credits. I'm like, it is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So.
Yeah. I didn't know who the cameo was going to be, and in terms of Valentina herself, I didn't really know who that was. I had to do a little bit of my own research. It is Madam Hydra, which I'm sure you know by now, who created the Dark Avengers and also kind of got the Thunderbolts up and going, both of which I think are possibilities, which is where I think they're going to go in Phase 5, but I'll talk about that later. I am excited about it, cautiously. But the way that Marvel is doing it is the opposite of what they did in the first phase, which is instead of gathering heroes, they're keeping the heroes they already have and then adding more villains, which is important because Marvel's villains aren't great. I think Marvel's heroes are better than their villains in almost every circumstance. And now we're finally getting some actual villains that I think might actually stand a chance against some of these characters. I'm really excited to see them clash a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next segment, I want to just mention to those of you who are watching, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. We've been working on this for about a couple weeks. I had the idea while I was at work, and I was like, oh, let's see if we can do this and pull it off. And it looks like it's working great. So thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're in the chat, drop a hello, drop a question if you're interested in asking a question about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we'll answer and give it our knowledge for the theories that are going around. But I just want to give you a little shout out. So thank you so much for joining us here today in the live stream. But now we're going to talk about the big one. We're going to be talking about Loki. This just ended last week. Today we got the Marvel Assembled episode. I'm really excited to talk about Loki because it is such a big, important show. It is literally, I think, the kickoff for what the Phase 4 is going to be. So let's just talk about the multiverse. They created a multiverse. That's insane. They actually did it. I didn't think they were going to do it, but they did it. They actually did it. They went ahead. They showed the multiverse being created. What did you think about that? Are you excited about the multiverse? Do you think it's going to work?
No, because like I know, like in WandaVision, like oh, there's going to be a multiverse, but then like they're not. I don't think they're ready for it. And then they like with he who remains, like he's like, oh, there's going to be if you kill me, there's going to be a multiversal war. And then it looks like it's actually going to happen, and I'm really excited to see where they go with the multiverse.
Yeah, same. I always knew that this would happen at some point, mainly because I knew that they would run out of ideas. I didn't realize it'd be this quick.
Yeah,
and I think that's why it was so important that they put Falcon and Winter Soldier in the middle, because originally the Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be first. And so I find it really cool that they decided to switch that up because they literally were like, tease the multiverse, but then like we went to Falcon and Soldier, we're like, well, we're gonna get some more, and then they didn't give us more.
Let's just take a break a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm like, cool, maybe it's not a multiverse, and then Loki happens, and we're like, oh my god, the multiverse is being created, it's crazy. Which I appreciate to no end. And I really appreciate the multiverse. I'm really excited to see how it impacts all the other films coming up. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be insane. So I'm sure you probably know this. Maybe the audience doesn't. Maybe you don't know this. But Loki was originally meant to be one 12-episode season.
Yeah.
And so when people are complaining about the big cliffhanger at the end of the first season, now that there is confirmed a second season, the main reason is because that was not meant to be the end of the season. That was meant to be the midpoint. And they had to stop because of COVID. They had to kind of film half of it, and then they were like, wait, this is a cool idea, let's stop here. Which means that I'm not even sure if they know quite yet when Loki Season 2 is going to happen. And personally, I think we're going to see Loki before Loki Season 2. I don't know if we'll see him in Doctor Strange, but I think we'll see him at some point, or at least be talked about. He literally created the universe, so I think it will be interesting to see whether or not we see Loki again before Season 2, and when and where that'll happen. Do you think we'll see him again before Season 2, or do you think it will just be Season 2?
Because they said he might show up in the new Doctor Strange, but I don't even know if that's really confirmed. But I've been seeing that maybe Season 2 comes out sometime in, not even next year, the year 2023.
Oh boy, if I have to wait that long, I'm gonna die. I personally, I hope that it comes out around the same time next year. That'd be nice. But I know that they haven't filmed it yet. Or at least we're pretty confident they haven't filmed it yet. Which blows my mind.
I think they're filming it close to the new Ant-Man movie, which does come out 2023. So I like I said, I don't know.
That makes me scared. No, I want more. Like, it's not even like I care that much about the show, but like they ended on such a cliffhanger. And of course, we're gonna see all these other characters before then. But it said the stamp particularly said Loki will return in Season 2, which typically for an MCU means we will not see that character until the big thing. It happened in the Avengers, it happened in Infinity War, and I feel like that's interesting that we decided to go that route. It's how Marvel always does, but I am a little nervous to see how it's going to actually work. I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be great, but I don't know
Yeah.
for sure how I feel um, about Loki not returning until then. I'm hoping it comes out 2022.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it will come out 2023, maybe beginning of 2023, but
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure. Another thing I want to talk about is Loki on a different timeline now. Do we think that when he got kicked out of the time door, that he appeared on a different timeline? Because Owen Wilson doesn't know who the heck this Loki is.
I think he probably is because yeah.
Do you think that'll be the new timeline that we move forward from here? Do you think that the sacred timeline's gone forever and we can't get that back? Or do you think that this is going to be, just a temporary thing that he's trying to find his way out of now?
Um, he'll probably try to find his way out of that timeline that he's stuck in.
I agree. Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if they did that, but then every single character would have no character development. So I'm a little nervous about it. But I think that
Yeah.
we will see that
Yeah.
it's possible that we see that Loki season 2 happens before the rest of the movies. Like we could see Into the Multiverse of Madness come out and then know that something happened, but not know what happened until we see season 2 of Loki. And I think that would be interesting. Yeah. Like maybe Loki just shows up, and then season 2 is just about him escaping the timeline. While I'm okay with that, I don't like knowing the ending before I know the beginning. I just don't. So I'm a little nervous to see how that works. I think it'll work fine. I trust Marvel, but to a certain extent, part of me is like, I'm not sure if that's going to work very well. What did you think about Jonathan Majors as the one who remains? I mean, I'm so excited about it. Have you heard about? I actually did a little bit of research before the show started because I have the Marvel Encyclopedia right there, and I was just doing some research on some stuff, and I actually did come across He Who Remains, and I was excited about it because he's technically not Kang. He is a separate person.
He's not Kang yet.
Yeah.
But then I was like, when the door opened and I saw his face, I'm like, oh my, that's him.
I know. Oh man, it's so cool. And what's cool is that in the Marvel comics, he is not Kang. Like this is the first time they've decided that he's going to be a separate person, and I think it works. I'm very excited about it. I think it works very, very well. Particularly that I think this character is going to be so different from Kang because he's so loose and fun and happy, and then we see Kang later, who's going to be incredibly tyrant. It's going to be so, so cool to see.
Oh yeah, he even said I'm the least evil of all the different Kangs.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see more. I wonder when we'll see Kang next. I know he's in Ant-Man, but I think we might see him even, theoretically speaking, in maybe an end credit scene for Spider-Man 3. It's incredibly possible to see him for an end credit scene for Eternals. If we do see him for an end credit scene, I think it will be Eternals. I think it'll be cool to see that because we're gonna have a kind of a basic story for the Eternals, and then end credit scene where we see him show up, and they have to deal with that. I think that'll be really interesting. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think it'll be cool. This is the part that I've been looking forward to talking to you about for a day and a half now. Try to follow me here on this theory I found online. I don't normally like to follow theories found online, but this one was so cool I couldn't not appreciate it and love it. The ending of WandaVision, where Wanda takes the power from Agatha in the air, right?
Yeah.
If you watch that at the exact same time that you watched one of the speeches from He Who Remains, he points out the camera, he goes, "You guys," and then he goes, and he looks over, and he's there for 15 seconds. He says nothing, but looks over to his right, and then he's like, "We just crossed the threshold." Then he picks up something, and I think it's a pen, and he just goes, and it drops. When it drops, so when he starts talking about you guys, and you start going crazy a little bit, that is exactly when Agatha is getting all her powers taken from her, but from Wanda. Once Wanda has full power, that's when he says, "We just crossed the threshold," and then when he drops the thing, that's exactly when Agatha drops on the ground.
I actually did see that online, so I only read a little bit of it, but that actually sounded familiar. So
it looks cool.
No, yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think it might actually work. I think that that might be legit, and then that means that Loki didn't really create the multiverse as much as it was, Wanda, which means that when Wanda's slipping through the Darkhold, that is her literally going through the multiverse. But I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if she can have multiple astral forms. She can only have the one.
Yeah.
But we'll see it in Doctor Strange 2, which somehow doesn't come out till next year. I mean, there's so much going on. That's just crazy to me. But I wanted to bring that up because I was so happy about that theory. I was like, oh my god, that actually makes sense. I thought that was really, 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 really cool. I'll take a quick little...
It doesn't sound crazy at all.
Yeah, fair, yeah. I want to go ahead and take a quick little 10-second break to give you a hint as to what the ending surprise for this video is, and that it has to do with when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So before I give it away at the end of the video, hit that subscribe button, because once you hit 150, I'm dressing like Spider-Man and going to Walmart, which, if you remember, when I hit 50, I watched The Room, and I did a review on it. That was kind of a... No, that was when I hit 100. That was my 100 special. I will do more every time there's 50, but there has to be a big event for when I hit 1,000, and I think I found out what I want to do, and I'm really excited about it, so I'm curious what you guys think. But yeah, let me turn my page, and we'll talk about Black Widow. This came out last Friday. I saw it in theaters at the Oneonta Southside Cinema, and personally, I was underwhelmed. What did you think, Julian?
It's not my favorite of the Marvel movies, but there were some issues I've had, but I enjoyed myself. Like, I'm happy that she finally got her movie, but and like I said, it's not the best MCU movie, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, I agree, and I think my main issue with it is it's an okay movie itself, but as a Black Widow movie, I don't think it's good. We don't talk about Black Widow almost at all. Yeah. And it's Yelena's movie, which I'm okay with because I freaking love her. But I do think that if they focus a little bit more on Scarlett Johansson, and also if Taskmaster was at all cooler, and people are complaining because people are like, oh, they don't like her just because she's a woman. That's not true. That's not true at all. I don't like her because the whole point of the villain is that we're supposed to spend an entire movie or an entire comic learning about how to kill Taskmaster and move on, and it just seems like such a cheesy ending that was really predictable from the middle of the movie. It was like we knew it was going to happen. And I don't know, I just didn't really like the villain at all. I actually think they were worse than the Flag Smashers. I think it was mismarketed, and I think that the main issue with Black Widow is that it is not a Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
But one thing did catch my attention, and I haven't talked to anybody about this yet, and shockingly enough, I haven't seen this online anywhere. How is nobody talking about this? I'll never freaking know. But we do know that Black Widow was supposed to come out before WandaVision, right? An entire year-ish before WandaVision was supposed to come out. And if we remember the end credit scene from Black Widow, it had Valentina Allegra de Fontaine in it. Which means there must have been a different end credit scene for Black Widow than what was actually filmed. Because Black Widow was supposed to come out over a year before The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to hit Disney+. Which means that something different must have happened, or this was supposed to be Allegra de Fontaine's first appearance, which I don't think this is supposed to be her first appearance. I actually do think that there was a different end credit scene filmed for this film. I don't know what it was, but we have to know that given the circumstances of COVID, there was a different ending to this film, and I need to know what it was. I am interested. This was, I think Black Widow was supposed to come out before they even really talked about there being shows for the most part. They talked about it, but we didn't know what they were. And Disney Plus wasn't even... Disney Plus would have been active for, 3 months when Black Widow came out? Something like that? At this point, I think it's important that people at least acknowledge that the ending of Black Widow, the end credit scene, was not supposed to be Allegra de Fontaine, or Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. It was supposed to be something else. And I've heard, one theory was that there was one film, and it was Yelena whistling, and then she hears a whistle, the same one that they always do, and then it cuts to black. Which I think is interesting, but if that was true, I think they would have had that happen anyway in this version, because that's a big thing. and they're not going to tease the fact that Scarlett Johansson might be alive. Even though I think it's true, I still do believe that Black Widow could be alive. A soul for a soul. We trade the Soul Stone and we get a soul back. I think it's still theoretically possible. Do I think it will happen? Not necessarily. And the reason for that is Scarlett Johansson has not expressed an interest in renewing her contract, as far as I know. But I do think it's interesting because in Hawkeye, what would be cool is if she comes back and stops Yelena from killing Hawkeye. How cool would that freaking be? That'd be so sick.
Yeah.
But the issue at that point is we don't have... If Black Widow was still alive, she would have gone to find Yelena way sooner. So I do think they will have retcon issues, but I think overall it would work if they really wanted to have it work. I don't think they're going to do it though. But I wanted to mention that there was a different end credit scene. No one knows what it was, but I would like to know what it was. But there had to have been a different end credit scene filmed for this movie, and no one knows what it is, and that is upsetting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk briefly about What If. That's the new show coming to Disney Plus in August. First, I want to ask, do you think it's going to be canon? Do you think it will actually have an impact on the MCU because it's animated? Or do you think it will be just a cartoon that is within the universe but doesn't have to actually do anything with the universe?
I don't know if all the episodes will be important to the multiverse. I think the stuff with, I guess, like Loki will be of bigger importance than the other episodes, but I can't say for sure.
Interesting. I watched the trailer a few times, and there's one thing that I noticed, and that is that Doctor Strange is always surprised in every part of the trailer. And personally, I think this could be Doctor Strange going into the multiverse for the first time, and each of these episodes is a different timeline he finds himself in. And it's marketed right now as it being its own self-contained thing, but Loki was also marketed as its own separate thing, and it's not. And so I'm interested to see if maybe it's possible that this is MCU canon, and this is where Doctor Strange actually learns about the multiverse and explores it, and goes into it and figures it out, and that would bring us to a Multiverse of Madness where he tries to figure out how to close it. I think that would work very well. I think it'd be cool. Is it 100% confirmed? Absolutely not. But would it be cool if What If was actually canon and we literally saw Doctor Strange learn about the multiverse through it? Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that would be, yeah.
I do have one issue, which is the voice acting. Doctor Strange is not voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, which is interesting. And I know that Iron Man, of course, isn't with...
isn't Robert Downey Jr.
Right. Is Chris Evans in this one? I think he might be.
I think I saw like a list of the actors who are not going to be voicing people for this show.
Yeah, I saw the list too, but I can't remember if Chris Evans... Maybe he's not. I don't know. There's a good amount of MCU people in it. There is also a good amount of people who aren't in it. Yeah. I know Tom Holland's in it, so I'm excited. And I'm excited for the Spider-Man episode, of course. We'll see how it goes. I think it'll be an interesting show. I think even if it is its own separate thing, it'll still be fun. It'll still be cool. It'll still be good. But I think it would be absolutely bloody brilliant if they decide to make it actual MCU canon and literally make that the first multiverse actual entry. I think that'd be really cool, really creative, and I think it would work very, very well. I want to talk about Hawkeye real quick, which is, I saw this one thing, and I think it makes sense. Do you think Hawkeye is going to be recruited by Allegra de Fontaine, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine?
She probably will try to recruit him, but he probably won't accept the offer.
Right. Well, because my first thought was, well, we've seen him as Ronin already, and we know in the comics he has been bad multiple times. But Valentina sent Yelena after him, so we know that'll probably be the main conflict. But we already have a new Hawkeye lined up. We're going to have a new Hawkeye. We already guaranteed. So I hope that we see Hawkeye retire finally with his family. That'd be really nice. But to a certain part of me would love to see him as a bad guy, but I don't think that they're going to be able to convince him in terms of the MCU as a whole to get him to do it. Because It just wouldn't make sense in the canon, I think. I think in another universe, sure, I think it's possible. But after all he's been through, I don't think that he would be recruited. But I am excited to see the show. I think it'll be good. I'm excited to see Yelena again at very least. Even if it is through the eyes of a necessarily a bad guy. But there has to be another villain. I think there's going to be another villain, and they have to all team up to work to kill it. I don't think that Marvel is dumb enough to make her the main villain after everyone loves her after Black Widow. I think that she will technically still be a bad person because she's still going to be on the team probably of the Thunderbolts, or she will be the person that informs the Avengers about the Thunderbolts or the Dark Avengers, saying, hey, there's this person recruiting bad people, I don't know who it is. That might be interesting to see. Whether that works out or not, I don't know.
No, yeah, after that, I'm like, I don't want to see you go back just because of Valentina.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I love Yelena. Shang-Chi, we have seen 2 trailers now, and one of which had Wong and the Abomination. What are your thoughts on seeing Wong and the Abomination in Shang-Chi, in this awesome-looking movie? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I was like, because when I was watching it, like, and then I saw, like, on social media, like, oh, that's the Abomination. I'm like, wait, I mean, I had to watch it again, and then I turned on, like, the subtitles. I'm like, it's the Abomination.
Yeah, it really is. It's so cool. I was like, no way. We haven't seen the Abomination since the Incredible Hulk, which, for me, is interesting because the Incredible Hulk is technically not owned by Marvel Studios, but it's owned by Universal. Yeah. And the fact that they're willing to have him in the movie, the Abomination, means that it's possible they had a secret deal. It's possible they had a secret transaction where maybe they pull out the Hulk. Maybe they're allowing to use the Abomination just this once. But that would mean that we could theoretically get a Hulk movie. I don't think we will because we do have She-Hulk coming out. I think it's next year. Maybe it's the year after. But I'm excited to see where that goes. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that I love seeing the Abomination. I don't know if this is going to be a multiverse movie. My thought is that it wouldn't be. It probably would come out after Endgame. And my thought would be, we've seen Shang-Chi as a young person, and we've seen him as an adult. My thought would be, what if Shang-Chi was one of the people that got blipped? That'd be kind of interesting. If he got dusted and then came back and then went after his father. The actual Mandarin, very excited to see that finally after the Iron Man 3 debacle. But I'm very excited for that movie. I'm actually way more excited for that movie than I thought I was going to be. The trailers make it look so good. Like, it looks very good, particularly because not a lot of people really know about Shang-Chi. I don't really know a whole lot about Shang-Chi, other than the 10 Rings of Power, of course, which is usually his father's, but I think that he will take them at the end of the film, and I'm very excited for that film. Like, very, very excited.
Yeah.
The Eternals. We don't know a whole lot about the Eternals, like at all. We don't know almost anything. We've seen the trailer, and the trailer doesn't really give much off either. What do you think about the Eternals? Are you excited? Are you kind of cautious? What do you think?
I'm actually excited, but I get like, oh, it looks so boring, blah blah blah. But like we still don't know a lot about them, and like even like I'll go back to like Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, I thought like this look. I don't even know these characters. It looks pretty dumb. But then I ended up really. It's my favorite MCU movie. So I trust Marvel knows what they're doing with this movie.
Yeah, I agree. And people who have already screened parts of the Eternals say it's better than Endgame. People are excited about it. I think it will be good. I am a little nervous about it though. I don't know when it takes place on the timeline. That's my main thought. Is it has to have something to do with the multiverse, or it has to be before the multiverse. It has to be one of those two. And I think it'll be set before the multiverse, but I don't know when. I'm cautiously excited about it because I think it will be a very good movie, but we don't know almost anything about it yet, which is crazy for us. But we do know it is more of a self-contained story that does have to do with the multiverse. At some point, it has to come up. So I'm excited to see how they do with it, how they actually, become part of the MCU and all that stuff. And in the comics, at some point, they did leave the Avengers. I don't think they will in the MCU. Is it possible? Sure. But I don't really think it will happen. Which, actually, at this point, the MCU might not even be the correct term for it anymore. It might be the MCM, because the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that'll work. Yeah, I'll be a little upset. I'll have to change all my video titles. But, like, I think it'll be interesting at the very least to see how they go about dealing with that issue. Now let's talk about the movie that I personally am, like, the most excited for. I've been waiting for this movie for so long, and it's got my favorite character in it. That is Spider-Man No Way Home. I am so excited and pumped. And my first thing I want to say is, where's the trailer? God, I've been waiting so long for it. I want it so bad. I want it so bad. People are saying it could come out tomorrow. People are saying the 22nd.
Oh, really? Imagine. No, whenever I see, like, on the comments for, like, anything like Marvel, oh, that's a nice trailer. Yeah. Give me the Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. It's... I hate it. I want it so bad. And they're holding it as long as they possibly can. But let's be honest. We have, less than 6 months? We have August, September, October, November, December. We have 4 to 5 months until the movie comes out. And there's no trailer. We have 2 trailers for Shang-Chi already, but not one for a movie that comes out at the end of the year. That blows my mind. And to a certain extent, it's possible we don't even get a trailer. It might just get enough people for the hype alone, which I actually had a theory... that they weren't going to release any trailers for Endgame. I thought maybe they just should go off of word of mouth only, which would have been an insane marketing idea, and they didn't do that, and I was really impressed. But, like, even if the trailer doesn't show me anything cool, I just want a picture of Spider-Man. I want an official poster. I want, like, I want... What? How is there not a trailer yet? Okay, I'm moving on. It is confirmed by Alfred Molina and by Kevin Feige that Dr. Octopus is going to be in this movie, and it is confirmed that it is the exact same one from Spider-Man 2, and that it takes place exactly after the events of Spider-Man 2. What are your thoughts on that? Are you excited about it? Did you like the original trilogy with Sam Raimi? What are your thoughts?
I'm interested to see where they go with that. If they're picking up right where he supposedly died.
Yeah. I'm excited. I like Dr. Octopus. I think it was I think it was the best movie of the trilogy. And so I'm really excited to see how they do that. Green Goblin is rumored. He's not confirmed. But it is confirmed we are getting Electro. That was the first thing we heard about Spider-Man 3, was that Electro with Jamie Foxx was going to be in it with a different character design. And I am curious to see how that works. I think that out of all the villains, it makes sense that one could still be living after Andrew's fight. But I don't know for sure. But we do know it is confirmed he's in the movie. I think they might be setting up a Sinister Six movie for Sony to do, not necessarily MCU. But I am excited about it regardless, and I do think it will have the multiverse. But what are your thoughts on if Tobey or Andrew are going to show up? Do you think Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield will make an appearance in this film?
I know Andrew's like, oh, I'm not in it. But like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if I should trust like the actors because like,
I know.
Like, I don't know.
Cody Buckman puts in the comments, no, Spider-Man 3 was the best. Oh, Cody, you silly goose. We all know Spider-Man 3 wasn't the best. I think that Tobey and Andrew could show up. I don't know if they'll be in a major character, but the reason I think that they might show up is not necessarily for the MCU, but they could be setting up an Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi. I think those are theoretically possible. I think they realize that the Spider-Man movies are making so much money all of a sudden that it is theoretically possible to make 2 or 3 a year. I'm okay with that. I think it might be a little flooded the market a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. But I think we might see, at least they will be referenced. We know that they will be referenced because of that. But here's another one of my thoughts. We know this for a fact. This is an absolute fact that the Vulture is in Morbius. And
Morbius, yeah.
we saw the trailer for that, it blew my mind. And the reason that I think that is because Spider-Man 3 was originally supposed to come out before Morbius, until everything got pushed back because of COVID. I think it's theoretically possible that there's a multiverse. We have Tobey and Andrew come in for Spider-Man 3, and then we go see Morbius, and it changes everything. Because now the Spider-Man 3 is coming out before Morbius. So it's like... which I realize that the picture I put up for the Phase 4 slate is not correct. Morbius isn't coming out for a while. Venom comes out this year, though. That comes out in September or October or something like that. I think it's September. Venom 2, that looks good. But, yeah, I think that's really cool that we could get Tobey or Andrew. I'm not going to speculate too much about it because I don't want to, and I don't want to overexcite myself, but I'm very excited for it. So that covers everything in the MCU for this year. Personally, I think the Phase 4 arc is going to be a multiverse arc, and that'll be it. I think it's going to contain the multiverse. We'll get to Fantastic Four, and Reed Richards will figure out how to contain the multiverse. That's my thought. And then Phase 5 will bounce back to Valentina Allegra de Fontaine and maybe get to a Dark Avengers kind of thing. Because we know for a fact, it is confirmed, we are not getting an Avengers movie this phase, which is the first phase to not have one. But I think we will get one in Phase 5. And I think it will have the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts as the main villains. I'm excited about that. I will give a couple seconds for the audience to give questions. Do you have any questions about the MCU? Do you want to say hello? Do you want to shout out? Drop it in the live chat below, and I will answer that as soon as I see it. But before that, before I answer the questions, I will announce what I'm going to do when I hit 1,000 subscribers. And all my friends know that I don't particularly like these for a lot of reasons. But I'm willing to do it. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to get a tattoo. And like... This lady came into work yesterday and she had this film strip tattooed on her arm. And it looked super cool. And I was like, wait. This could work. So I think my plan, I don't know where I'm going to get the tattoo or what it's going to be exactly. I think that it will be a film strip and it will be somewhere on my arm. But I think that, yeah, once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I will get a tattoo and I'm going to film it. And it's going to be super cool. So if you want to see that, definitely smash that subscriber button. That subscribe button, big red button underneath the live chat. If you go underneath the live chat, it's right there. If you smash that button, once we get to 1,000, I'm doing that. 150, I'm dressed up like Spider-Man going to Walmart. And once I hit 200 and 250 and 300, all that, we'll have smaller little surprises, little things, but nothing as big as a tattoo, of course. But I'm really excited. But that pretty much concludes the live stream. That was actually perfect, exactly an hour. But I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank Julian one more time. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to plan to do this once every year, if that's cool with you. If we could do it after every year, that'd be crazy. And theoretically speaking, if we could do it during the school year, we could do it live and in person. And that'd be crazy. What year are you in school? Are you a junior now, or are you still a sophomore?
I'm gonna be a junior.
Okay, cool. So we have 2 years where we can do stuff in person at very least. So that'll be really cool. But definitely subscribe if you want more live streams. Let me know in the comments below if you like these. If you like them, I could do more of them. I don't have a problem doing more of them. I do enjoy doing them, and it worked well. I think I'll go back and check out the VOD later on tonight and see how well it looks. But once again, thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.